I've made over $1 million in my business, and I've helped other entrepreneurs do the same in theirs. And in this video, I want to break down how we've been able to operationalize a simple 4C formula that's allowed business owners to go from 0 to 250 to 500, even upwards of their first $1 million in business. Now, full disclosure, this may not work for you. I'm not saying that this is 100% going to be the silver bullet for your business, but I will say it's something that's been implemented in my own business, which is one of the plaques that we have back here from ClickFunnels. This was given a couple years back, which is pretty cool. And then we've also been able to implement this in other businesses as well with our clients. And so I want to share those lessons with you. And so the first C that we have is capital. Now, this is going to be funding, this is going to be leverage, and this is going to be cash flow. Now, what I typically see with business owners when they are building their business or when they're scaling it past, let's say that $500,000, $1 million mark, is that they typically fall into one of three buckets. By the way, they'll typically fall into one of these three buckets even beyond $1 million. But for the purpose of the video, for the purpose of the example, we're just going to work with $1 million, right? So the three main buckets that we tend to see here is you are using your own money to fund the business. Sometimes you'll see this a bit more with somebody who's starting out. So they'll use things like their personal credit cards, or they'll use maybe some of the cash reserves that they have. But I mean, I will tell you from experience, especially with us helping small business owners build up their business profiles and helping them get access to business credit, which is essentially capital that's attached to the business, not their personal credit. I can tell you from experience that we've helped small business owners who have a $5, even a $6 million business, and the business owner is still running operations that same way. So this isn't necessarily a money thing. This is more so of a system thing of how they're actually operationalizing, how they continue to fund their business, their operations. So you're using things like your personal credit, you're using things like personal credit cards, or you're using, again, your personal reserves to float the business. This ends up breaking that scale. It could probably get you off the ground, but it ends up breaking that scale because things start to get more expensive, especially as you grow. Natural blow occurs inside of the business. Not only that, is you want to keep a nice separation, like side tangent here, between your personal expenses and your business expenses. And so it starts to get a bit muddy when you're constantly using the same account or the same accounts, in this case, personal credit lines that you do to maybe pay for a Netflix bill that you use to run a Facebook ad. It gets really messy. Next is the sales-driven capital. Now, this is more of a problem that I see with companies or businesses that every single dollar that comes in, they're having to reallocate that based on what the business needs. Here's what I mean by that. If a client pays you, let's say $500, and you have two more projects on hold, and those projects amount to about $1,500, well, guess what? You either have to wait for the entire invoice of this current customer before you can start servicing these customers over here. And we see this a lot in things like real estate, in construction, in service-based businesses. Or you're going to have to self-fund it. So it's going to, again, come out of your pocket. You have to use a personal credit card, and or you're just going to have to wait and pray to God that those customers, those potential clients, don't find someone else to do the work for them, or you have to take on too many projects and you don't have the capital needed to grow and obviously work on everyone at the same time. The third type of funding that we see businesses use, especially when you're getting to that mil mark, or in my opinion, past that 1 mil mark predictably and sustainably, is once you have a business funding setup put into place. What this allows you to do is you can now get access to business capital through the business so that you're not just solely reliant on using a self-funding type of method. So you're not just solely reliant off of just waiting for a client or an invoice to clear so that you can take on that next project. Now, the strongest businesses that I see, and not just the ones making $1 million, I'm talking about some that you see on the listed on the S&P 500 right now in the stock market, is they're using a blend of OPM, which is other people's money. In this case, it's going to be business credit, business capital. So that can be a business credit card, business line of credit, a business term loan, maybe even an SBA type of product. And then they're blending that with some type of client finance acquisition or some type of sales driven capital, which is when that customer pays you, you can now go out and purchase two more deals. You can now go out and purchase two more customers. Having that blend is what really creates that beautiful separation. The next C is content, which allows you to create authority, trust, and proof. Now, here's a main caveat to this is that you don't just want to be seen. You want to post to be trusted. You want to create that affinity between you and your ideal customer, you and your ideal client, you and your ideal avatar. Now, your content, here's catch 22. And I see a lot of people screw this up, especially when they first start posting content in hopes to start drumming up some business, is your content has to, number one, not just be good. Let's quantify what good actually means. Your content actually has to help people out, not just trying to hard sell them on a video. CTA, click the button below, book a call with us, click the button below, buy my thing. You actually want it to help them first. This is going to lubricate the sales process if it's just you selling, if you have a landing page, if you have a website, or if maybe you have a team. The person that's going to come in is going to feel, and by the way, this doesn't have to be 100%, but the people that do come in, they're going to feel like, man, this person helped me out before I paid them a single dollar. And so if this is what they're giving out for free, I wonder what it's like once I actually transact with them. If your content doesn't do that, then it hasn't done its job. And if I'm being real with you, you're probably holding back on the real sauce. I've never lost a deal just because I gave away too much. In fact, I've gotten more deals and I've gotten more customers and clients inside of our ecosystem simply because they said, man, that one video that you shared helped me unlock this one thing that I was struggling with for 2.5 years, 3 years, for the last 6 months. And because of that, I was able to get XYZ outcome. That's what you want to aim for when you're posting content. And here's the cool part. I've had people that have sent our company, our business, customers and clients, and they said, hey, I may not transact with you because, you helped me get to a point with where your service is right now that I may not be a good fit for it, at least for what I'm looking to do. But I have these 3 friends that you guys would 100% be able to help. Like, I can't transact with you, but let me at least send you some business. Think about that for a minute. Just from you posting content from the frame of trying to help someone that you'll probably never meet. But the problem is that a lot of times when we're posting, we're in a scarcity mindset, trying to, let me post this today, drum up some business today, let me pay the bills. No. This is going to be a slower burn. And this is going to, think of it as real estate out into the ethos that you're going to put out. And so your content should educate your future customer or client. It should differentiate your offer or your business, especially if you're in a competitive niche. And it should position you as an expert or as an industry leader for that thing that you are talking about. And one of the easiest ways to do this is simply like the video that you're seeing right now. Our business has done well over $1 million. And so I'm just going back and I'm sharing the lessons with you of not just what I've noticed in our own business, operationalizing this for you, but what I've noticed in other businesses that we've helped as well, that we've noticed that are well past that 7-figure mark, that they all have these 4 core things in place. The third C is conversion. This is when you create a system that is predictable and that's not just based off of random luck. This is how you identify and where you identify where your ideal customers and clients are. Because if you can't identify this, then there's no way that you can essentially put this on a conveyor belt that makes it repeatable, that makes it duplicatable, and that makes it scalable. And so here's just a couple places that I would recommend you taking a look at. It doesn't have to be any of these, by the way. I'm just giving you based on the data that we have. Are your ideal customers? Ask yourself, are they hanging out on IG? Are they on Instagram? Are they on Facebook? Or rather, in Facebook groups? That's like a whole other topic. Are they hanging out in LinkedIn? Are they hanging out in local farmers markets? So maybe your business is, yes, it's ran online, but there could be an element to it where you have in-person meetings. There could be an element to it where you have a face-to-face conversation, especially if you're in real estate. Yes, the conversation may start online with you posting content online, but where does it end? Well, it ends of you showing up to the property. It ends of you going out and putting a listing, you going out and giving a listing presentation, you going out maybe to that farmer's market. Maybe somebody saw your post, saw your ads and say, hey, can you bring that thing over to the local farmer's market that we have? And now you're actually selling in person one-to-many, or you're possibly selling one-to-one. Now, the thing with this is that you want to get specific. And so I usually recommend 1 to 2 channels. So once you get past the mill, that's where they say, hey, diversify. But if you can have 1 to 2 channels starting out, ideally at least one that you can predictably just either spend on, either with your time, with your energy, or with your money if you're running ads, And then the second channel is one that you'll start to build out, especially once you get past that 1 mil mark, is it's either going to be outbound, meaning you're reaching out to people either through the DMs, either you have a list that you purchase, and so you're calling them and you're presenting your offer or your service. That's going to be obviously a bit more sweat equity, but it's also going to be a bit lower on the totem pole in terms of how much capital you actually have to allocate for it, especially if you're just starting out or if you're just breaking into a market. Side note here, there's companies that have built multiple 8-figure businesses simply off of 100% outbound. So just because it's on the lower part of what we call the scalable, assets or the totem pole where, hey, this is going to require a lot of my energy, don't negate the fact that you can 100% scale that into a multiple 8-figure thing. I digress. When it comes to in-person, exactly what that sounds like. Possibly you are a real estate agent or you have a product or a service. Maybe you go out and you do bids. That's more of a selling one-to-one or a one-to-many. You have ads, which is you putting dollars behind a piece of content that's maybe already performing well organically. So an example of that would be if this video was doing really well, we would probably chop it up, create maybe 30 to 90 second sound bites, and then publish that on Instagram and Facebook, which is where the majority of our audience typically lives, just based off of all the data that we ran, that would then bring them into our ecosystem. At that point, we would either give them an offer that they can purchase or continue to give them additional content so that it continues to build up that authority and that frame, like the second box that I just finished sharing with you. And then you have your referral/network. Now, the cool thing with this is that, especially if you're scaling a team, one of the questions that I like to ask if I'm interviewing someone, if you're already to the point where maybe you're starting to get some help in your team, is, and I'll flat out ask this during the interview, hey, apart from some of the leads or apart from some of the customers that we already have here, how do you plan on contributing to the business? And I remember asking this one time, and I had someone that I brought on board. He gave me a great answer. He said, well, I came from an adjacent type of business to yours. So it wasn't a one-to-one match, meaning it was a completely different business. But the type of people that they were serving at his previous job would be ideal customers for who we would service here with building the business credit profiles. And so he says, I can actually reach out to them because one of the main constraints that I noticed that they had, he says to me in the interview, is that they lacked the business capital to be able to move into some of the deals that they wanted to get or to secure some of the contracts and bids that they were looking to secure. And I thought that was brilliant. And so ever since that day, I thought, man, that would be a fantastic question to ask going forward. And by the way, you can do this throughout any department, but especially on the sales and acquisition side. Don't just ask them, hey, what's your close rate? Hey, how many hours can you work? Ask them, how do you plan on bringing revenue and driving revenue to this business and bringing business to us in exchange for obviously a higher, and at this point, we're kind of getting a little bit into the weeds here, but at that point, you would obviously work a different comp structure with who they would bring in. And then from there, you would continue to build out maybe that other pillar of the network that you're building out through that sales department. And then lastly, we have capacity, which is your delivery, your systems, and your team. Growth isn't just about doing more. It's about you being able to handle more, or in this case, your business being able to handle more. So here's how this looks like operationalized. You want to build an internal capacity before chasing external growth, because this is how you can scale without burnout. And so what this means is if you're constantly chasing the next high-end month, and so if you go from 80K a month to 120, if you go from 120 to 200, but you actually haven't built the infrastructure to sustain that level of growth, you're going to get knocked back down, or it's going to cost you your health because you haven't yet built a system around it that begins to remove you from the things that maybe don't have as high of a lever on the activity that you could be doing as a business owner, as a CEO, that you could be delegating to someone else. What this allows you to do is the following. You're going to be able to build out SOPs, which are standard operating procedures. And so this allows anyone that you delegate this role to deliver the same results inside of that container that you would be able to deliver yourself. And so a quick example of this is that if you were right now running the sales calls yourself on your team, can you operationalize that and build out sales scripts? Yes. If you are the main greeter inside of your lobby, can you operationalize that and show someone, this is how we greet someone, this is how we look them in the eye, this is how we address them by their first name, this is how we compliment them on what they're wearing, this is how we show them around the building as they wait for their next appointment? Can you operationalize that? Yes. You put it on paper, One of my mentors told me this. He goes, Irv, if it doesn't exist on a doc, it doesn't exist. If it only exists in your head, God forbid, a bus hits you tomorrow, the business is gone because it's gone with you. And so what you want to do is, hey, I'm going to put everything down on paper, and it could just be a simple one pager that they can take a look at as they're going about the day or as they're learning about the role and say, okay, cool, I can do these 3 things. Or, okay, cool, I can do these 4 simple action items that get us to this ideal outcome. And that's going to be something that you, again, want to think through. And one of the best things about where you're currently at right now is a lot of people tend to kind of like negate the fact that, man, it sucks being in every role. At first, it does. But then the frame around that is I'm learning these roles so that I can operationalize how I want them done. So that when somebody comes in, one of 2 things happens. Either A, they're going to follow it to the T, which is exactly how we built it out up to this point. Or B, if you have what I would call like a killer and someone who really wants to take and help you take your business to the next level, is you'll start to have people that start to come into your ecosystem. When I say people, I'm talking about this point, team. And they'll say, hey, I know that we've been doing it like this, maybe for the last 6 months or for the last 12 months or for the last year and a half. But I think that if we maybe test it out, maybe greeting someone this way, maybe coming around the counter to the right instead of to the left, maybe saying this on the sales page instead of this, I think that we would actually convert better, or I think that somebody would have a better experience with us. Then at that point, that's how you start to even make better tweaks and faster improvements inside of your process. And then lastly, the way that you scale your business, once this becomes repeatable, is the process that you then want to use to hand off and scale with. And so once you have not just you doing something well, not just the person that you possibly hire doing it well, but now you have 2 or 3 people doing it well, that's when you say, okay, cool, this right here is 100% proven. We can absolutely scale this and continue to grow our business and our operations. So that is a simple 4C formula that I've just noticed that our clients have in place, whether they know it or don't know it, that I definitely had to go back and really think through once I passed my first 7 figures in one of our businesses. Okay, how did we actually, what did we actually do? What were the steps taken? And so this is me essentially putting everything down on paper, kind of like an SOP, what we just finished mentioning a few moments ago, and you seeing in real time how that actually checks out. If you are a business owner and you need help with setting up these types of systems and businesses inside of your company, and you're looking to get past that first $1 million in your business, let's have a conversation. We can also talk about business credit and how we can implement a business funding system into your operations that allows you to scale without getting the burnout. You'll see a link down below. Feel free to book a call with our team, with either myself or somebody on my team. I will see you on the other side. But other than that, enjoy this video and check out this next one right here.